Right.
because nobody comes down to the meetings,
Right.
And now that we have them live on Zoom and Facebook Live, and then it's recorded so people can see them later.
Right.
God, you get so many people involved, and that was important to us as the new board. We said, look, we're going to have more transparency and communication and stuff. So the ability to do this stuff is awesome,
Yeah, no, I'm super excited because I've been talking about this forever. And I've been one of the ones that started doing it in Pest Control Podcast. And I've been telling people, listen, something's going to happen and nobody wants to do live meetings and everybody wants to do a room. And here we are,
Well, you know what? You and I have been talking about doing this for a long time, over a year.
I know we've had two good conversations that we could have done a podcast on if we would have just recorded the phone conversation.
It's okay. And look, you know that I do meetings. I go all over the country to do meetings.
Right.
And it's fun to be there live to interact with the people. But, with this COVID-19 and all the stuff that's happening, I've had a lot of the meetings all the way through, I think January coming up have been canceled.
Yeah.
And we have Nashville is about to happen. And I have to book those hotels for my PJB workshop, the business development workshop. And then we're worried, okay, if we book something, what if Pest World gets canceled?
Yep.
Right. But a lot of people, I mean, this was one of the people who come to my meetings, ideas. Well, do it the weekend before Pest World. Then people who want to come in for Pest World can be there and attend the meeting. And then this way, if they want to go to Pest World, they're already there. Right. But a lot of people who come don't even go to Pest World.
Right.
So, it is what it is. We'll figure it out along the way,
Yeah,
so
no,
anyways,
I mean, a lot of guys are doing summits. I mean, I've gone to 3 summits where they were weekend long.
Yeah.
Straight on Zoom. And then the classes were recorded, and I had 20 guys do a summit. And I basically paid for the conference online. And it was wonderful. I mean, if you're there for the I guess the connection to people, it's different. But if you're there for, hey, I just need to get the good information, then the summit works. And it's just a one of those things that you got to give up one for the other right now. But I think you can have sort of a relationship in that room where, you make it work and people realize this is it. This is the new normal. And it's no longer a stigma when you're not in the room together.
No, you're absolutely right. And I'm actually in the planning processes of doing a Zoom meeting. And some of the people out there listening may or may not know about it, and some people will like it and some people won't. But the truth of the matter is I have a Facebook group that I started called Bedbug Practical.
Yep.
And you're on there, I think. And the Bedbug Practical, the purpose of that page was to provide accurate and credible information for people who really need it. And I have a lot of pros on there, and they have to understand that, look, the purpose of this page is for the people who are the consumers who can't get credible information,
right?
And or they have to wade through. You talk to one guy and this is the way to do it, or you go to and people don't. The consumer gets confused, but the underlying thing, and I know if they're if the Pest Pro guys that are listening to this know this, that there's how many people call us, they have bed bugs really bad and they can't afford it.
Yep.
They can't afford to hire us. What happens? Who's helping those people? And the answer to that is nobody.
Nobody.
Right? I mean, some of us help them. Some of us do. Some of us will do a few jobs per month to help those people. But there is a huge reservoir population of bed bugs out there at homes that will never see a pro.
Yeah.
And some people some people in the professional, market freak out that we're going to help people to do it yourself. You know what? Think about this. And this is how I talk about this. You go into Lowe's and Home Depot, right? They're where you are in your market. And you walk in there and there's a paint department, there's an electric department, and there's a plumbing department. Well, did those departments put plumbers, painters, and electricians out of business? No.
No,
Right?
it doesn't happen.
Because, yeah. Look, there's the do-it-yourself guy was never going to be your customer in the first place. So don't worry about that crap.
Yeah.
And the truth is that anybody who knows what they're looking for can buy almost every product that we use as pros online.
Yep.
But that doesn't kill our business. Our business is growing. I mean, think about this. I know you know a lot of guys, right? What's the biggest problem in the pest management industry? It's always been here. We can't get good help, and we can't get enough help.
That's my problem. Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah.
If we didn't have any work, we wouldn't need help, but we have plenty of work, right?
I'm up to my ears in alligators, man.
I know. Think about it. Bugs put me through college. They put my kid through college. And I'm still working. I should be retired by now, but I don't see me retiring,
Yeah. No, one of the things that I love about you and that I always have, and I've been following you probably a good 5-6 years, all the way back, cemetery. And one of the things that I love and that I think that we both see in common is that you're an advocate for the consumer. And you're a big, because you deal a lot with consumer problems. I mean, right now, you and I on the internet and on the web and on YouTube, we're probably the most loved and hated guy at the same time. Because
I kid with people who are around me. I said, look, you know what? I'm making new friends and new enemies every day.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, understand that being pro-consumer does not make you anti-industry.
It does not.
Right? Being pro-consumer is to do this work right is not rocket science.
Right.
And if you do the work right, and that's what I'm pro doing the work correctly.
Exactly.
Right? Now, yesterday when we were going back and forth on Facebook Messenger, I think that's called, right?
Yeah.
I was saying, well, if you have a couple questions to send me or whatever, but if you've been around, you don't need to send me questions. You just hit play and I'll just keep going.
Right.
But the thing is, people get freaked out when I post a video of a house that I inspected.
Right.
How bad the damage is with termites.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God, Paul Bello's anti-industry. No, I'm not. Come to these houses with me and you'll see. I'm showing you the video. This is like the tip of the iceberg that you get to see in a video or pictures that I put up.
Right.
Here's a house that needed 600 gallons applied and they applied 50. Here's a house that Stevie Wonder could see the termites at and they checked off the box, no visible signs of termites. Right?
Right.
You can't inspect the house from the mailbox, and you can't inspect the house and you look at some of the companies have these handheld things and it logs them in and out when they stop at the house, and they were there for 4 minutes. You can't inspect a 4,000 square foot house in 4 minutes.
No.
And it's along the Gulf Coast and it's in Formosan termite country. What do you think's going to happen?
Right.
Some of the houses I'm at have millions of dollars of damage, millions of dollars, all the way up to the ridge beam of the attic, right, of the roof line, and that doesn't happen overnight,
Right.
So.
Yeah, I had this when I started doing, to give you a little, because you've been in this game a long time,
only 44 plus years now.
So it's almost 3x my experience. And when I started in that, I decided I'm going to do a new pest control company. I said I'm going to educate both the consumer and I'm going to educate the industry. So simultaneously, when I started my new company, I started the podcast at the same time. And I said, we're going to do both. And so 5 years ago, I had, I was kind of like you before, where I used to have a different company. We used to have a landscape business, pool service business, pest control business, and handyman service. What a nightmare to try to hire people. I mean, you think it's bad enough trying to hire for one industry. I could not figure out. I was like in a 3-ring circus half the time. And so what I decided to do this, I said, I'm going to educate the consumer, because I know that bridging the gap between educating the consumer and educating the industry at the same time, those that have no help, because there are a lot of people have no access to good training. And we're talking 5 years back. Now with Facebook and groups and all that, people have a lot. But still, I find that most people in this industry that I talk to on the street have never really taken any really good training. I mean, I get calls from all over the country, just like you do. And one of the things that I was seriously focused on is bringing those two together, the consumer and good companies, and bringing that. And I think what happens that I get is a lot of people who don't want to be a good company, who work for companies that aren't good, and we know the big problems that we're seeing, especially in the litigation, which you're involved in the termite industry. We see what the result of this is, and not educating the consumer, but then we become, I'm anti-industry, which I am anti-status quo. I'm not anti-industry because a lot of what I do benefits the industry as a whole, because we live now in an age where information and transparency is the name of the game, and a lot of the old people and the old guard in this industry don't want that. They don't want the transparency. They don't want that honesty from the consumer.
Think about this. In the old days, and I'm talking about pre-internet,
right?
You could go to somebody's house and tell them almost anything. And if you spoke with confidence and you were clean cut looking or whatever, they would believe you. They wouldn't question anything.
Right.
Today, this Galaxy 8 is more powerful than my first computer.
Yep. I
could go on Google, and a homeowner can Google anything and find out what's what about the kind of ants they have, the kind of termites they have, the kind of roaches they have, or whatever. So now you come walking in there and tell them stuff. As soon as you leave, they're gonna look it up to see if you were telling them the truth or not.
Right.
And or they may have pre-educated themselves before you even got there.
Of course.
So I think that when you think about this from 50,000 feet, the fundamentals always apply. And you'll see me say that often, that the work that we do has to be what I call entomologically sound. And I'm the one who coined that phrase because I'm the first person you've ever heard say that. What does entomologically sound mean? Well, what that means is no matter what work we do, it has to match the biology and behavior and the circumstances for the pest we're dealing with, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense. With people with bed bugs, I tell them, look, I cannot solve your bed bug problem by applying the world's best bed bug killer in the kitchen and solve the bed bug problem in your bedroom. That's not entomologically sound. It doesn't even make sense, right?
Right.
Same thing with termites. Same thing with every pest, and so when you see, I have videos and stuff about this kind of thing where people have to pick, hey, how do I pick the best bed bug professional for myself? Well, what the guy's telling you has to make logical common sense to you too. Ask questions, right? And here's the important thing, and this is what I'm challenging our industry to do. Do high quality work, get a high quality price for high quality. You can't do inferior service and expect premium fees for it. So do high quality. If you're the best company in your region, you should be getting the best price for everything, and make money on purpose and not by accident, and also stand behind your work. So the guy with the high reputation that has high quality work is entitled to make more dollars than the people who are doing not so good work. Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, how do you argue with that? That's what I stand for. And it's crazy to me how in the past, and I know you've seen it, where I'm posting a video about look at this damage at this house, and people start arguing with me.
Yeah.
I don't know how you're arguing with me because I told you this much of the story. I told you what's important for you to know. There's a lot of damage here because these people didn't either inspect the house right or didn't apply enough termiticide or in the right places to stop the termites for these people or whatever. So there's that. And you were worried. I was worried I wouldn't have enough to say to you.
Oh, believe me, we can have a conversation. Let me go back here because I'm looking at the comments online. We're live, and I was just looking at making sure that if anybody had questions,
and I'm happy. By the way, I'm happy to answer any questions that come in that people are sending.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on the thread here. So and then I suffer from ADD, ADHD, and CRS. So Paul Daniels on, and everybody's just saying good morning to you. So Pete Chopin is on, and Triple D's on, and Who else is on there? There are people coming on board now. So, but yeah. So
Hey, well, let me just mention one thing about our industry, which is awesome, and that's the people in it. I mean,
of course.
there are so many awesome people, and good morning to everybody. And you know, one of the things I enjoy the most out of this industry is meeting some really great people. So
No,
thanks to
yeah.
everybody who's here.
Yeah, no, that is it takes a special person. I mean, to really do this job and really care about what they're doing, especially in today's where everybody's freaked out about chemicals and I mean one of the reasons we got into IPM and eco-friendly, which is really what we do, is just classical IPM, entomologically based services, and we basically do this because so it takes a very special person to care about today about, and especially with the generations that we obviously are going with, the generational issues that we're dealing with. I'm struggling with that as a Gen Xer who is dealing with millennials now and iGeners who the social skills that are needed to do this job is one of my biggest challenges. Is not finding somebody who can do the technical work. I can train a monkey to do this. It's finding the people with the social skills that just give a damn and care about other people.
Look, you know, think about this. When these things first came out, and you know, now everybody has one. If you don't have one of these in your pocket, something's wrong with you, right? But
Right.
You turn around to work with these guys in the field, and I'm working with people all over, and you hey, you want to say, look at this over here, and you turn around to the guy to see if he's listening to you, and he's doing this. He's not even looking at you, right?
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I'm 5 feet away from the guy, and I'm better off sending him a text about, look, this is how the termites got in this house. Just look, put that thing in your pocket for 10 seconds, right?
Right.
So yeah, it is kind of funny, but you know, and I'm gonna repeat what I said earlier, but think about this.
Right.
Not only do these people lack the social skills, they don't know how to communicate well with each other, right, with customers.
Yeah.
But and you see it when I see people post questions about okay, yeah, I have many years experience, but they post a question and I'm like, wow, why aren't you thinking about the fundamentals? Why aren't you thinking about the who, what, when, where, and why this is happening here? And you're asking a question. But what's also funny to me, or interesting, if you will, and it's the reason why there is the Paul Bello HMMM ... when people make comments. There's a reason I use that thing.
Okay.
It's because I'm like, I can't believe the guy said this, right? Or I can't believe they're missing this. Or I better not say what I'm thinking right out loud. I have to clean this up and say it nicely, right? So that is like a thoughtful pause for me, because wow, how are we not thinking about the basic fundamentals of this stuff?
Right.
And I think that, you know, you go to a training class and you sit there and you listen. And I mean, look, it's fair for me to say these things because I am highly critical of myself. If I come and do a presentation, and thanks to all those people who have seen me live and had to listen to the same jokes over and over again all these years. But I'll be done with that and I'll rate how well a job I did. Because my job is to teach people how to do stuff. And I want to tell them those things in an interesting fashion so nobody falls asleep. But at the end of the day, you sit there and you look, inspection. And how important it is. Well, you know what? Teach people what they're looking for and how to do it.
Yeah.
And teach them the tips of how and you can't learn these tips in the book. And they're not in the regulations, right? And that's another funny subject that comes up all the time in my world, are the regulations. Well, think about this. The regulations can't include everything. There's no way, because otherwise they would be, this thick, right? And it's like, okay, follow the label. Yeah, the label's the law. Fine. Show me on the label where it says what kind of drill to use and how to drill and how to patch concrete and how to clean up and all those kinds of things. None of that's in the regulations. You learn that. You learn those skills and methodologies from the people who train you.
Right.
And what the missing art is, you tell me. I haven't. You guys are you're Fort Lauderdale area, is that right?
I'm Miami, Fort Lauderdale. Yeah, I'm further south,
Okay.
but yeah, I'm close.
Okay. All right. So anyways, I have houses down there that I've inspected, and I see this everywhere. People have white stucco houses, and guys come in and drill through the stucco and patch it with gray concrete. It's the $2 million house on the beach. And
Right.
you know what that looks like from the street? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, wow, where's the lost art? People go to a masonry yard and learn how to do this from a guy who knows what he's doing. And the sad thing is, a lot of those guys who are really good at this, they're aging out and they're not here.
Yeah. I get calls all the time, and the ones that I feel really sorry for are a lot of the guys that are giving me calls on a daily basis because they've seen what I say and the comments I make, and it says, look, I work for a large national brand and I haven't even been taught this. And I says, how do you have not been taught this? This is 101. And a lot of the things are 101, like how to identify an insect. I'm struggling with my guys and say, okay, I just came across an ant. It looks like a crazy ant, Frank, but it's brown. And send me a picture of this. And I said, I have no idea what this is. I haven't seen it before. So bring me a baggie, put it under a microscope. I got to ID it. I said, guys, do you own a lens? Have they taught you basic anatomy? I mean, these are the things. I mean, this is where it gets scary, Paul, for me, when you have a guy in the field who has not been taught how to properly just ID an ant.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going back to real simple stuff. That you're getting into the, you're looking at millions of dollars worth of damage. I'm looking at how the heck he doesn't know the difference between an ant and a fly that he's looking at.
Listen, I know what you're talking about, and it's true. I was in a crawl space with this guy doing a termite job, and there's a bunch of camel crickets. Now, go in certain crawl spaces, you'll see cool stuff. I mean, bug stuff. And now I'm turning into a bug geek, right?
Yeah.
But in a lot of times when a house has camel crickets in their crawl space, they have like a ton of them. And people are freaked out because they're pretty big,
Right.
And if you disturb them, they'll jump all over. Oh, they get on me. They're not biting you or anything. Calm down, right? This guy didn't know what it was, right? He didn't know what they were. He didn't even know they were crickets. And I reported that to my superiors. And they're like, well, there's no way. That guy's been working here almost 2 years, and he would have gone through the training, and they would. I'm telling you, this was yesterday. I was working with this guy. He doesn't know what crickets are and camel crickets. So whether you want to believe me or not, you want to look at the, at the ivory tower and say, well, it's on the list that they were trained with. He doesn't know this, and training has to be underscored. It has to gone back. Maybe he got taught it and forgot.
Right.
But that's not the kind of thing you forget,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that's a fundamental in our industry is the training.
Yeah.
And I'm still learning, and I've been in the business over 44 years.
Yeah.
And I'm learning every day. It's like, wow, I have all the stuff that I have to know.
Yeah. I think curiosity is that innate ability to have somebody with curiosity to say, ooh, what is this? If you don't have that, I think you can't really do a good job by just following protocols that I sprayed, I treated, I measured. You go through the motions, but there's no curiosity to why, who, what, that just that reporter mentality of just finding neat stuff out all the time and wanting to learn more. Because I think that's my secret. I'm not really particularly intelligent. I don't consider myself as really bright. I don't know what my IQ is. It probably isn't that high. I don't think it goes into a triple digit. But what I do have is this just insatiable curiosity. And I just want to learn more. So therefore, I'm constantly learning, and I get really bored very quickly. My ADHD kicks in. So I have to be constantly in that learning and growing mode, or else I'm done personally.
Sure. And that's, listen, it's like there's two things. One is you have to have a general curiosity and a quest or a thirst for knowledge. And someone like yourself, you have that. The other thing that I want people to have is something that I learned from the accounting industry is called healthy skepticism. What that means is you question things,
Right.
right? You know, this has to be done this way every time. There is no every time type answer that works 100% of the time, 100% of the cases. And people ask those kinds of questions, and sometimes I guess that they're frustrated with my answer, because sometimes the answer is it depends. You know, and that it's depending on what? It's depending on the variety in the circumstances of the situation you're dealing with today, right?
Right.
So there you go.
Yeah, no, I had that same problem in school. I think it goes back to a lot of school, because you're not taught to question things in school. You're taught to follow the program and follow what you're being taught, and you're not supposed to question that something is actually not making sense. And I think
you mean like that do you have young kids that they get taught that Common Core math? Oh my God, that was ridiculous.
Well, my kids are really young right now. She's 11 and my son is 6, so he's just starting first grade this year. And to me, a lot of things didn't make sense in school. I mean, it just didn't. I fell asleep. I was an entrepreneur since I was probably 12 or 10 years old, and just a lot of this stuff never made sense to me. I was totally bored to death. They had to put me in special class and with one teacher so I could focus. That's how chronically bad it was. I literally had to have somebody sitting there next to me teaching me, because I would fall apart. But in this business, I never find that I'm at a loss for. It's probably the only industry I've ever been in. I've been in the computer industry and in manufacturing. To me, this is the most challenging and most rewarding industry I've ever been in, because everything is always turning. Nothing is. I mean, I'm in Florida, so I get 8 to 12 new pests a year. That keeps me on my toes, because I do a lot of ornamental work, and I don't do termite, which is really funny. I haven't gotten into it, and one of the things I haven't gotten into it is I am totally petrified of all the litigation that goes on in our industry. And that's one of the things that really petrifies me.
Okay, so I'm glad you said that, because I want to caution everybody, okay? And I want to caution everybody in this regard. While it seems like there's a lot of litigation, there really is not a lot of litigation compared, when you think about how many homes are treated for termites and inspected for termites every year by our industry versus how many lawsuits there really are. There's not that many.
Right.
Okay. Now, years ago, I did an article for PMP magazine. They had like a silhouette on the cover, and the headline was "On the Stand," where they asked me, you know, the editor of the magazine asked me questions, what it's like to be an expert witness, and I told them. And the lawyers didn't like that I'm answering these questions and putting it in an article. And some of the questions and the answers were edited out of it because of the legal purposes. And I'm like, I don't care, because as long as I tell the truth, I don't have to remember what I said. But think about this. One of the things that happens is when you're dealing with attorneys, they go to law school for 3 years, and they get an education in 3 years at a established learning center, if you will, or an institution which teaches them how to become professional arguers. Where does someone like us go to learn how to be an expert witness? There's no school for that.
Right.
They're going to ask you questions, and now you're playing ball in their arena on their field. And I got to tell you, you could be one of the smartest bug guys in the country, and those guys, I mean, you know what? They ask you a question and you answer it wrong, and there's blood in the water. Oh my God, it's a feeding frenzy for them, and you're going to lose.
Right.
And you know what? I'm sorry. It's you can't. The system is rigged in their favor, because people, they'll get mad at me, but I'm going to tell it like it is. I said, look, you know, you're a professional arguer. I've been doing bugs my whole life. You know, I don't care what the regulations say, because I can't take this regulation and stop the termites coming into this guy's house from it, or the bed bugs or whatever. I have to do what's entomologically sound, and the regulations don't matter. because the termites are the termites, whether you're in Florida or Georgia or Texas. It's still termites, and you still think about it. The labels for the products that we use are federally registered across many states. And you do the work the same way in Florida that you would do in Texas, that you would do in New York, because you're killing the same bugs with it, using the same product, right?
Okay.
And they want to argue about that kind of stuff. And I'm like, wow, that really doesn't matter. What matters is you didn't get the bug juice where the bugs are, and that's why you have a problem. And that's a fundamental that goes across every situation, right?
Right.
You can't kill the German roaches in the kitchen by applying Max Force Magnum in a bedroom, right? Makes sense.
Right.
So, anyways.
Yeah.
What
So
else?
no, let's talk about because let's talk about a little bit of history, because I understand, and you're related to probably the guy, and I want to bring this out. I want you to talk about this, who really got me hot about doing IPM and the future of pest control. I'm going to give you a little bit of story.
Okay.
2006, I got into this industry, and the way I was taught to do pest control for ornamentals is you take a 100-gallon tank and you mix 8 ounces of this, 8 ounces of fungicide, you mix 2 insecticides, you put in a fertilizer, and you spray everything. That was my training. 6 months later in December, I go to a Univar CEU, my first CEU conference that I had to go, and I had no idea. I still, 6 months later, I don't think I knew anything about bugs. Okay, this is why I'm so passionate about the training, because I was trained so badly.
Okay.
And this little skinny old guy with a bolo tie stands up at the end of the conference. I think he was like the 4th or 5th guy. And he starts talking about the future of pest control. And I'm probably the youngest guy in the room. I'm probably 30-something at the time. And he starts talking about the future of pest control, how the future of pest control is going to be green. And how IPM and this and that. And I look around, and everybody in that room is probably in their 60s. And they're all shaking their head arguing with him. I can see it. And I'm thinking here, this is phenomenal, because I don't know anything about this guy. I later did some reading, but he starts talking about how he started back in the 50s when he was the first student I think Purdue ever had in the entomology program. I mean, this guy goes way back. So I'm thinking this guy's going back a long time. He knows something. And I just got like mesmerized about this. And he's the guy that lit that fire in me to really get into IPM, really get into the technical part. And this is Austin Frischman.
Right.
And I understand that you studied with him.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about that experience, because I think people will find that very interesting. Because I tell you what, every year I go, I just saw him again this year, last year, and you know he's getting up there. But this guy, if I can say that one guy made a single impact on my entire pest control career from that one conference, was Austin Frischman.
Okay. So that is something, believe it or not, that we share. And let me tell you how. When I started college, it was at State University of New York at Farmingdale. That was a 2-year school. And the campus was about 15 miles, 20 miles from my house. And I enrolled as a biology major. And I wanted to, at the time, I thought, and you know, I'm older than you, so I don't know if you ever saw Jacques Cousteau on TV.
Of course, yes.
Okay, so I wanted to, maybe one of the bio majors that you could was oceanography.
Okay.
And I thought, man, that Jacques Cousteau thing, that was really cool. But I figured out pretty quick that the guys just swabbing the deck on that boat have PhDs in oceanography and stuff like that, and they're not making any money. And I was paying for my own college, so money was important to me. But everybody who was in general bio had to attend a class on Monday morning at about 10 a.m., I think, about a 1-hour class called Topics in Bio. And they would have a guy come in or a lady come in and talk to these hundreds of kids about different careers and different branches of biology, different fields. So like Dr. Frischman captured your attention, he came in one day to talk about what we didn't know was pest control. So the way he started his talk was he had a brown paper bag, like a lunch bag, and in it were cookies. I don't know what kind of, I don't remember what kind of cookies. I can't tell you if they were chocolate chip or Oreos.
Okay.
But he sold the cookies to the class. Now, think about this. This is before lunch to a bunch of kids that are 18 to 20 years old or so, right? And the first cookie sold for 5 cents. And you have to go back and think, this is 1975.
Okay.
Around there, right?
Okay.
So the first cookie sold for a nickel. The last cookie sold for over $1. Now that's a lot of money for one cookie, right?
Right.
So no one knew what he was doing, and then he explained what happened. He said, aha, I just taught you the law of supply and demand. Because the first cookie was a nickel, the last cookie was over $1. And he says, that's what I'm here to talk to you about today, because my program is pest control technology. 2-year school, you can get an associate's degree in pest control technology, the only college in the United States that taught pest control. The only one. You could go to Purdue or Florida or somewhere and get a degree in entomology. It's not pest control. Okay? So he says, anyone who switches to my curriculum, pest control technology, you can get a job right now as a pest control technician, because they need college educated and well educated people in this field, for about $10 an hour or more right now. Now, somebody out there in the e-world, go online and see what the minimum wage in the United States was in 1975. You're going to find out it's somewhere about $3 or less an hour.
Yeah. I remember my mom telling me.
When he said $10 an hour,
right,
boom, he had my attention. So when he was done talking about pest control and all that kind of stuff, then that hour session was over. I went down and talked to him, switched into his program, and within a month, I was working at Suburban Exterminating in Smithtown, New York.
Wow.
And that's how I got in this industry.
Yeah, no, I think he's such he's one of those guys that I've had maybe 3 or 4 teachers in my life that I can look back and say, man, that guy really made an impact on my life.
You know, he's probably one of the best guys that because he teaches from practical knowledge, and what's, you know, it's, I could get up and go get the letter, because I just received the letter from him about, I want to say 2 weeks ago, where he's officially retiring. And he sent a nice letter, and he was thanking me and stuff, and because I'm the founder of the Austin M. Frischman Endowment Scholarship at Purdue University for people who want to go to school for entomology. And that thing was started in 1994.
Wow.
And every year, a lot of people don't know this, every year a number of kids get a scholarship at Purdue. So now think about it, 1994, it's 26 years ago. There's probably over, I want to say 40 or 50 kids who have gotten money from that scholarship, and it's an endowment. It's there forever. So I did that as a way to thank him. Anyhow, that being said, he's, you know, I called him up when I got the letter. I said, okay, Doc, you know, you've threatened to retire before.
Right.
And he says, nah, this time I'm serious. I said, okay, well, you know, we'll see, because if I have an event or sometimes, you know, people call me and say, can you get him to come with you? And I'll call him and see what I can do. But the other point I wanted to make is, if both of us are a speaker at a program, you watch, I mean, look, if you were paying attention, you'll know that if someone's speaking at a conference and Dr. Austin Frischman is at that conference, depending on what topic it is that he wants to hear about, he's in the front row, in the middle, taking notes. Every time. And I'm amazed that I'm talking and I'm one of his students and he'll take 4 or 5 pages of notes from me. And I'm like, Doc, why are you taking notes from me? He goes, can always learn something, right? So that's a pet peeve of mine when I go and I'm a speaker at programs, because you look around the audience, and I'll do this, once in a while. I'll get, okay, all the ladies in the audience, raise your hands, and so everybody look around. All the guys look around. You see, there's only about 10% women. And I said, but here's the difference, and I'm going to challenge you guys to be as good as the girls, okay? And don't get mad at me because I said girls or ladies or however I characterize it, the female. There's only 10% of them, but 80% of them will be taking notes. The 90% guys, we're lucky if 10% of them are taking notes. I said, what? You spent money to come here. You're not working today. You have the opportunity cost of even being here, and you're not going to take notes because you're going to remember everything Austin Frischman said today because your ego won't let you take the notes, right? Because of testosterone. Take notes. You can learn, right? So,
Yeah,
anyways,
no,
I try to get people to take notes.
Yeah, no, I remember. I still do that. I take copious amounts of notes because I'm in there for the 99% of the stuff that you're going to say I probably know, but I'm looking for that 1% of stuff that said, man, that's, like I said, that's the day when I sat in that conference that I said, I'm going to focus on building my company as an eco-friendly business because that's the future. And here we are today having that argument on Facebook, on Twitter, that how do you become eco-friendly? How do you do this? How do you use natural? And I know we've had, and I know where the limitations of 25B is, and I know the complexities of it, and I'm not a guy that pushes 25B. I'm a guy that pushes IPM on principle, and then figuring out what is the lowest risk product that you can use to solve that problem. Not necessarily, it's like, what the question that probably burns you up as much as it does me is, what is the best product to use for bed bugs?
Listen, if you're paying attention, you know how to answer that question. I don't care which product's the best. What's more important is how you use it, right? Yeah. Getting that whole get the bug just where the bugs are thing. Yeah. But the thing about being green is I don't want people to go bonkers and crazy overboard with being green and getting overly concerned and worried about it. Because think about this. When I first got into business back in the 70s, the products we were using we were applying pounds per acre or pounds per 1,000 square feet of product. And that's a lot of pesticide. Today, you're putting, you have these squeeze and pour jugs. You're putting 6 milliliters. 6 milliliters.
Right.
A teaspoon is 5 milliliters.
Right.
In a gallon. It's very, very low amount of AI.
Yeah, I think most gallons will have a pound, maybe, if you're lucky, in a 2.5 container, a pound and a half of actual pesticide in a jug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of toxins. The newer products that we're using, the pyrethroids and some of the others, are used at very, very low rates. Right?
Right.
So in that aspect alone, it's you could argue that that's being green. The other thing that happens, and you'll see this, I answer this all the time, and I'm saying this all the time on the bedbug page, is when I get called in as a consultant to help solve bedbug problems at apartments, community homes, and places like that, housing authorities and things, I'm probably removing more bed bugs and killing more bed bugs with a vacuum than any other one method. And people freak out, but I'm like, look, use a vacuum, use a good vacuum. Oh, they're going to come out of my vacuum. Most of the bed bugs are being killed by the vacuum. Think about this. Put it in perspective. I'm basically going to suck you up into this machine that's as large as your house or bigger compared to you. What do you think you're going to look like when you get done in there? So I don't have a lot of live bed bugs that I find in my vacuums. But the vacuum does a great job. And guess what? There's no resistance to a vacuum.
Right.
The resistance is people, you see this on the bed bug pages. I vacuumed my whole house. You don't have to vacuum your whole house. You only have to vacuum where the bed bugs are hiding.
Right.
German roaches, same thing. God, you'll remove more roaches with the vacuum than any other way. What are you going to go in there? I'm a consultant for big apartment companies, and I go in them all the time when they have problems. I get on an airplane and go wherever it is, and the pest control company's caulking the cabinets with baits. Stop. If it didn't work the first time, and you're going to do more of it, that's kind of like chasing parked cars without a helmet, right? Think about it.
Yeah.
So you have to stop what you're doing. And why is this not working? The roaches are going to come out and commit suicide all the time. You know what? Use a vacuum. Let's say you have 1,000 roaches in there. Use a vacuum and get rid of 950, and now you have a better chance of killing the last 50 that you can't get at with the bait.
Yeah, and we just to give you a little testimony about what you're saying is 3 years ago we got consulted because we're one of the more vocal. I mean, I'm on YouTube, on everything. So this is my strategy. This is how I get my business. And there was a study that was being done in the inner city, an asthma study by a university. And these doctors called me and said, "What's your methodology for doing this, your roach process? Because you claim you're eco-friendly, you're green." And I said, "Well, it's classical IPM. I'm going back to Brenner and the USDA and the studies he did with roaches and things like that. We're pulling out all those studies." And I said, "This is where our protocols come from. It's just we vacuum and we don't use flushing agents. We use air to get them out of where they're hiding, and we vacuum and we get a good amount out, and then we go in and we use bait and IGR, and that's our method. And it's finding out where they're hiding and picking them up." And so we got into this project that's been there since the 50s, inner city project, HUD. And they haven't been able to control the roaches there ever. And we went in, and it took us a year. 6 months on most units just to get control in one unit for 6 months. Going there, I mean, this is like hundreds of thousands. I mean, you're talking about on one piece of threshold, 500-600 roaches on that much threshold. Because
it's those ones that you put a sticky trap out, you come back 24 hours or less later, and you can't even put another roach on them. They're just covered. Right?
That's it. And so we were just
that's the ones that I want to go to. I love those kind of jobs, right?
Yeah, and we took it on, and we took it on for 3 years, and we were able, through the study, they were able to prove the decline in allergens with our process, which is not even ours. I mean, we just took the information that's available and said, this makes sense. But what the pushback is always, oh, well, no, you have to spray. We did zero spray in those homes, zero pyrethroid sprays. But we used air, vacuum, and gel bait and IGR. That was it. And we got it under control. People say today, I had guys calling me saying, "I heard you talk about this. It can't be done. I've been told it can't be done." I says, "Go do it and stop arguing with me and just try it." And then it's like, "Frank, you're not going to believe it. The roaches are gone." I'm like, duh.
I know, right? Yeah. Well, think about it. 100% of the roaches you suck up with the vacuum are not going to be there tonight.
Yes.
Right? It's as simple as that. And I guess you're going to love this, but, think about what was the first commercial big-time roach bait that was on the market way back. Was developed. It was being built for a company called American Cyanamid that doesn't exist anymore. I don't think. And it became Combat. And you know where Combat was being used? With Dr. Frischman. We used some of that stuff on his ping pong table in his basement in his little house in Farmingdale and out in the field. And the roaches would come to the end of the bait thing. It was like a plastic thing that you like a big syringe, right?
Yeah.
Didn't have the guns yet.
Yeah.
And the roaches would come to it. And he looked at me and he went, "Ooh, this is going to be good." And that was way back when. Right? Yeah. So I was lucky. I mean, think about it. I was lucky to have the education and the training that I had. It's not that kind of training is not available anywhere. There's no college for that anymore. But I mean, I was vacuuming roaches in the 70s. And people are like, "Wow, you don't have to do that." Well, just spray them. It's easier.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's just what it is. It comes down to like, hey guys, this is when we were in those units, By the way, this was not easy because we were in those units for somewhere between 2 and 4 hours. I mean, that's how bad this was. We're talking about people, there were 4 kids in that house, all of them had asthma. I mean, it was just that chronic. So at one point, this is where we got hired to do this because I said, look, this is going to be long-term strategy. And then we had HUD arguing with us.
Yeah.
And saying, we've got our own people doing this. This can't, they're saying it can't, they're doing it. There's no problem. They were totally denying the fact that there was a problem when we have hours of footage of watching millions of roaches in a drawer and saying there's no problem. They were giving them, the Advion. They were actually giving the people the syringes with the Advion and the pucks. And there's no way this person is ever going to control this big of a problem without this knowledge by applying bait everywhere. And so that's one of the things that for me as a human being, seeing that amount of suffering and saying I'm not going to do anything about it because those people are never going to pay for it or they're never going to whatever. It's this attitude that we see in groups when we say about, giving something away because people can't afford it. There are people who have written me. I have videos and videos and videos that I do on how to control roaches, and I show people how to do it. And I literally had one lady who was in a group who's probably it was in bed bug group, and says, I can't get any help. I'm trying. She was actually in a bed bug group. I think you're in it. And it's one of the big bed bug groups now. I can't remember. And I contacted her and I said, look, send me a picture of what you have. Let's take a look at it. And I walked her through the whole process of having to solve this problem because she says, you don't understand. I just moved here to this apartment with my daughter. We don't have any money. The landlord isn't going to take care of it. We're in a market in Miami, for people that don't understand Miami. It's a 50% rental market, which is astronomical. People can't grasp that in middle America. 50% rental market, but it's 65% Hispanic. The average household income is less than $36,000 a year average. And the majority of people, I go to these buildings where I see these little old people living there. And they're crawling roaches all over. Their kids don't visit them.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the sad part of what I'm talking about in the industry. The stuff that breaks your heart that you're saying, so what do? I said, hey guys, let's get a Saturday and let's ring up this entire neighborhood and just solve the problem. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And people can't grasp that.
This is what I find. I find that the more I give away, the more comes back to me.
Yep.
I do a lot of free stuff for people. I want to relate this story to you. As a student, there was only 13 of us in my freshman class at Farmingdale. And one day he's talking to us, we're just going over German cockroaches. And he says, in places where the roach infestation is really bad, you'll see that the little kids, the roaches, when they're sleeping, will get on them and chew off their eyebrows and their eyelashes.
Oh, wow.
Now, I did not believe him. I thought he was, because, hey, I'm a young guy, right? And I'm like, I think you're kind of BSing us, just trying to get it, like the shock value, trying to impress us. You know what I mean?
Right.
So one day I'm working on Long Island, and I have to go to a housing project. And I go into this apartment, and there's 2 little kids. They're like, I want to say maybe 3 years old and 4 years old. And I'm the exterminator. They had to do a German cockroach clean out. And these kids came from the hallway into the kitchen area where I was working, and I looked at them. And my first thought was, you got to remember the time frame now. This is like 70s or late 70s, early 80s. And my thought process was, wow, do you like banjo music? Because they both looked like that kid playing the banjo in Deliverance with the funny eyes, because they had no eyelashes and no eyebrows from the roaches.
Oh, wow.
They chewed them. They chewed. I guess when they're chewing, it's just a hair, and 2 bites, boom, it falls off, right? So they looked so weird. And I was like, oh my God, this is what he was talking about, right? And I did a roach clean out there, and there was, okay, so here's how we were doing it back then. We had our B&G sprayer, we had Dursban, and we had a product called Vapona, which is DDVP as a liquid, and you put 1 ounce of that in with your Dursban, and man, it was like a withering field of fire. Plus, I had the Whitmire System 3 with the belt pack, right, with a can of PT-270 and a can of PT-250. One is Dursban, the other one's Bagon. And man, you're just spraying everything, and the house smelled like hell. And roaches are climbing out, and they climb up the walls, and they go across. They get about halfway on the ceiling and fall off, dying, and it falling in your head and going up your pants legs and stuff. And I'm like, I killed a lot of roaches, but I made a mess. And I'm like, I can't leave this house like this with these kids here and this lady. So I used her vacuum to suck up the dead roaches, which were like dripping with Dursban and stuff, right? And there were so many roaches, I clogged up her vacuum. Now I have to clean out the vacuum. I was sweeping up roaches. I filled a bucket with roaches, all right? Right. But I just wanted to stay there until I got them all in every room. And I kind of got in trouble for it because I was there for too long for the amount of money that the company was being paid. But right. I wasn't going to leave this house with just doing like a baseboard spray job. That's what they wanted you to do. And there's no way. So those kinds of things stay with you.
Yeah.
Those are the things that inspire you to do your work better. And look, at the end of the day, I've had a lot of hard jobs. I've been a blue collar kind of guy a long time. And it's hot and it's nasty and all those kinds of things. But, one of the things that inspires me to do my work when I'm out there, a lot of times I'm working by myself and there's no safety net. And say, I'm crawling in a crawl space looking for termites or whatever the heck it is. And I'm like, what gets me to crawl in there through the spider webs and the snake skins and God knows what you're finding down there, right? I know that old lady upstairs is depending on me, right? Or it's the other people. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this for me and for the money I'm being paid. I'm doing it for that person. And I hope that I say that out loud because maybe that helps somebody out there think of maybe not what Paul Bello does to inspire myself to do my work well, but maybe get you to thinking, what is it that you have to hang on to and think of so that you're inspiring yourself to do the job that you need to do, because sometimes our work is easy, a lot of times it's not. Sometimes we're in a clean environment, a lot of times it's not.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, no, that is it. I mean, I get you. I wish that the people who are listening to this would, because I think there's the other side of the story is the unappreciation there is from the world for what we do, thinking that the reason we got into pest control is because we couldn't do anything else with our lives.
Yeah.
And that's a stigma that society has. And I think that is so unfair. And this is why I am just dog determined to put the information out there for free, to let everybody that comes across the material realize, dang, these guys really have to study. They really have to know science. They really have to know biology. These are not a bunch of uneducated misfits that couldn't do anything else in society, and this is what they did. And I think that's probably the thing that motivates me the most to do these podcasts, is really to educate the world. Because that's my goal right now, is that if I've got another 10, 15 years, think of the damage I can do through this device.
Right. Well, you know what? I got a couple stories I want to tell you about that. First of all, the thing about being in our business and being in this industry is the entry level, is the threshold or the barrier to get in this business low? Yes, it is. But everybody just look up. Now, we're inside, right? But we go outside and you look up. The sky is the limit for
right.
you, okay? And we're like water. We seek our own level, okay? So I have just written an article that's published in PMP, but I think they're putting it online. Um, and it's about increasing your professionalism. Now, one of the things that I'm doing is, I recently uh, took my ACE and BCE exams, and now, and I did it because I promised Dr. Frischman I would do it. And I had paid to do the test years ago, and it just never worked out because you need a BCE guy to proctor the exam for you, and that all has to work out. So thankfully, there's a guy named Alan Foyer out in New Mexico who had me out there as a speaker a couple years ago, and he was doing the exam and everything. So I did it at the same time I was out there. Now, I took both the ACE and the BCE together. I figured, you know what, if I study for the BCE, I'm going to pass the ACE at the same time. I might as well do it. And I felt sorry. There were 7 other people in the room taking the test with me. Nobody else passed. And I realized, you know what? I have to help this too. So I'm almost done with my preparation course for people to take. And last year, I started the first one because I'm vice president of the Certified Pest Control Operators here in Georgia. And at our meeting, our annual fall meeting that we do in Macon, I said, all right, if you guys want to take the exam, I'll proctor it. So we had 3 people come in, and 2 out of 3 of them passed. And then the third person, actually just recently, he passed while we were at the PJB thing in March at Disney World. So I'm happy about that because I'm trying to build the ranks of the ACE people. And basically, I can tell you, if you want to do this, get in touch with me because I'll tell you like it is. I figure it takes anywhere from 25 to 35 or so hours of study. And you have to study in a
And that's not a lot.
Fashion. Well, it is when you worked all day, right? And now you want to come home and you're tired because you know what you want to do. When you come home from a hard day of work, I mean, think about it. It's over 90 degrees here already.
Yeah.
And the guys that are out there working in the field today, gosh, getting in the truck with the air conditioning on, by the time you get home at dinner time, you're gonna have dinner, you're gonna fall asleep on the couch watching the news because you're exhausted.
Yeah, that's right.
And once you start working, see, that's one of the things that I'm trying to do is bridge the gap between people who are out of school and not used to studying all the time like a student does, and people who are working in the field. So you have to have a cost-effective, and not cost-effective, but time-effective, time-efficient methodologies of studying, and that's what I'm going to teach people so that they can pass.
Yeah.
So that's important to me. The other thing, the other article that's out there that I mentioned a couple seconds ago was increasing your professionalism. Now you think about it. If you bring you have a guy come in to give you an estimate for something that needs to be repaired at your house, or you bring your auto to a mechanic or whatever, whoever sounds like they know what they're talking about, that you trust the most, is going to get the work, right? So we can increase our professionalism by using the right verbiage when we talk to people. You don't have to go to college to learn how to use these words, but you have to learn them so you can use them, right?
Right.
So that's what that article is about. It's like here's a list of words that you should include in your daily verbiage as you communicate with people about the pests that they have. It's.
I think that's extremely valuable. Here's where, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm working on. I reverse engineer everything. I just think in simple terms. The hardest thing for me to do is to take something and simplify it. That's the hardest thing to do, and turn it into something simple. You're going in that direction where you're creating that thing. I'm going back to the basics of pest control and pest control service. I'm creating the online academy because I look at Purdue and then I look at, man, I would love to go there, but 90% of the people are never going to ever see that. A lot of the stuff that's available online is based on a compliance perspective only. Even NPMA, and I've taken all the courses, I've seen them, it's based only on a compliance mentality. None of it that is being taught right now from any online school or anything that has to do with pest control and CEU is taught from the perspective of practical, so that the person can go out there and be productive and make money for their employer or for themselves, and actually deal, because the biggest challenge I have in dealing with finding people is that they do not know how to communicate.
Yeah.
Communication skills are almost gone from, and I'm hiring these 35-year-olds that don't have communication skills. They can do the technical work. They're brilliant at it. They'll go hunt things down. But when it comes to communicating, simple things like knocking on the door and letting people know you're there is almost like we have this really introverted society, or more introverts are available, I guess. I don't know. That's been my challenge, and you're right, and using the words, and I've been in sales for 30 years. I can get a conversation out of a 2x4, with termites in it. But I find that it's so difficult for them to communicate and to ask questions and to engage with the client. And I found that if I can coach them, I can get them to be 30, 40, 50% better when they were not, when they're introverted. And it's okay to be an introvert. You can still learn how to effectively communicate. And I think that's where my real challenge is in the training that I'm producing, is to deal with those issues.
Sure. Well, think about this. If they don't have, it's like a bank account. If you don't have any money, if you haven't put any money in the bank, you can't take any out, right? Okay. So and you've seen this, like, because you've been in the e-business with computers and stuff, that garbage in equals garbage out, right?
Right.
So and input equals your output. So they have to have this list of vernacular, this list of terms and things and verbiage about, hey, you know what? Make a baseball card. Now, when you were younger, did you have baseball cards as a kid?
I had some laying around, but I was never into sports.
Okay. So
yeah.
So this is going to be difficult then. So if you could name a baseball player,
okay,
like your favorite one, who would it be?
I actually got to meet from the Red Sox. What's his name? The catcher, Bench.
Johnny Bench.
I actually got to meet him once. Huge hands.
So you would pull up a Johnny Bench baseball card, right?
Okay.
It has his picture. It'll have his picture, and he might be holding a bat. He might be holding his catcher glove or whatever. But it'll say Johnny Bench. It'll say Cincinnati Reds. It'll say catcher. And then you turn the card over, and you'll see his date of birth, bats right, throws right, his stats, what his batting average was, his on-base percentage, his RBIs, all that kind of stuff, all that information on a baseball card about that guy. And I encourage people in my training, you need a baseball card for the German cockroach, right? German cockroach, right? Blatella germanica. How it's a male or a female, how many nymphal stages there are from egg to adult, all that kind of stats and stuff. It's all right there on one little card, and you got it.
We've done that. It's funny you say that, because I actually done that for my training. We're on a 2-page protocol with all the pests they deal with, and all that data, I've done it down to like one paragraph so that it's easily memorable to them. They can memorize it. And I've done it that way because I found that a lot of the material, like in Malice, I'm going to overwhelm a tech.
It's all there, but wait.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you this gold nugget for everybody out there.
Sweet.
I want you to learn this. Now, here's the thing. Let's say this is my German Roach baseball card. And you gave it to your guy, and it's got all the information you want them to know on there, and they have to read it. Don't give them that. Give them this baseball card. What do you see on there?
Nothing.
I know. It's blank. You know why? You write German cockroach on there. And then you tell them, here's the blanks to fill in. Because when they write it, they will know it.
Yeah, and I taught that technique from the guy I took the course.
That's called annotative study. That's what I teach, annotative study. That means you're taking notes as you're learning. So when the guy writes down German cockroach, Blatella germanica, he's going to remember Blatella germanica. So now when your guy goes into Mrs. Jones's house and goes, Well, yeah, those are those are German roaches. We know they're German roaches because they have cerci. Look at the tip of their abdomen, and you have these two projections those cerci are covered with hairs. And the reason that they're covered with hairs is because they're a sensory organ. And did you know that they're wired directly to the leg muscles? They don't go through the brain. So that when they feel the air move and the compression of air when you go to step on them, that's why they're hard to step on, because the cerci pick up that air movement and the difference in air pressure and tell the legs, start running immediately. A lot of people don't know that. The other way we know they're German roaches is because look at those two longitudinal stripes on the top of their pronotum. That's that little shield behind on top of their head, between the head and the abdomen. It covers the thorax. They got those really long filiform antennae. Boom, boom, boom. I just threw in about 6 different terms that anybody could learn just by writing them down.
Right.
But I sounded really intelligent about knowing what a German roach is compared to the guy from Company X that comes in and says, oh, yeah, those are them roach bugs, them water bugs. We're just going to spray for them. Who's going to get the work?
Right.
The guy who talks like that, or the guy who knows what he's talking about?
Yeah, and not only that, but the technician that's in that home. When the industry is hiring the 19 to 24-year-olds. That's when I did a survey about and I did it on 10 groups. And I said, what age did you start in the pest control industry? And I gave 5 age ranks. 50% of the people and across all the groups responded between that 18 and 25. And the challenge that we have today within that 18 to 25 is that the majority of 18 to 25 years have never had a job in their life.
Yeah.
This is their first job. This is the challenge that we're having, Paul, that it's unlike any other time in history. We have a new group of people who says, I'd rather work. Why am I going to go work for $12, $13 an hour in the sun, in the heat, when I can make $12 an hour from behind a laptop?
Yeah.
We have a different time frame, that there was no computer. There was no way for you to work. When I first saw the first Home Depot in my town, in Miami, back in 1984, I was just mesmerized. To me, that was heaven. Because I've always been that technical kid that wants to work on everything. But now, to finding people that can actually get in front of somebody, talk to them, communicate effectively, be able to do the technical work. It's almost like this tall order that we can't find. And literally, for me, from a hiring perspective, it's 1 out of 700, 1 out of 1,000 of applicants.
Yeah.
That I can find to do this work. So, and then couple that with there is no accessible training think about the independent guy who's hiring his guy for the first time. He has no protocols, no procedures, no training program. He's never done training. He's never done hiring in his life. He's between a rock and a hard place. That's where my burden is, because that's what I felt. That's my pain. And I'm trying to see how I can alleviate that pain for that guy who says, I want to hire my first technician. Where do I start? He has no clue, because he's never actually ever trained anybody. He's never hired.
And listen, there's even more to it. First of all, the good news is, as long as there's bugs, we'll always have a job.
Yep.
Right? But the thing is, okay, even though, like, you take someone like myself and others who have gone to college and learned entomology, you might be a really great entomologist, but that schooling that you had didn't teach you how to run a business.
Right.
Didn't teach you how to do a training class. Didn't teach you how to do pricing. So all those things, I was one of the best bug killers you'd ever see. But I didn't know anything about break-even analysis and how to calculate my hourly rate and my profitability and all those kinds of things. So you had to learn that either by the School of Hard Knocks, but I'm unusual. I also have an MBA in accounting. So now you have to hire people. And there's that, how do you get people? Like you said, you can put an ad out there, but God knows who's even going to answer the ad and come in for an interview. I talk to people all the time that said, we had 3 people come scheduled for interviews. None of them came in. None of them even showed up. That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I've had that. I've had a Saturday where I called 11 people that qualified, and I said, listen, we're going to meet tomorrow on site so that you can actually experience what your job is going to be like. We had 1 show up.
1 out of 10 or 1 out
Yeah.
of 11.
Yeah.
Right.
So after they've been through this is what's sad. It's after they've gone through the whole vetting process that I have. The background, I mean, they send in a video. We do an online interview. I do a profile analysis on them. We've gone through a whole process for them to go through this end process and never even show up for the interview. That's what was really shocking to me at the first time I did it.
It's a different world. I did things differently. I don't mind people. I didn't do ads to hire people. I mean, I started my company I quit my job as a technical director and just said, I'm going to just start my company from nothing. And, I ran it for 10 years and had 18 people. But rather than put ads out, I went and recruited people. And I went and got them. It's kind of like, do you like hunting or fishing by any chance?
Yeah.
What do you fish for?
Anything I can catch because I'm a lousy fisherman.
Okay.
But
when last time you went fishing, what did you catch? Do you remember?
Probably a yellowtail, little tiny one, about that big.
Okay. It
Yeah.
takes a lot of them to make a sandwich, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but when you went fishing for these yellowtail, you didn't go in the parking lot at Home Depot to go fishing for them, right?
No.
How come?
They're not there.
I know. They're out in the water. You have
Right.
to go where they are.
Right.
So my tip for everybody who's having to hire people is go where the type of people you want to hire are and go get them. Stop putting an ad out that you're casting a net, right? Anything could get caught in that net. Go where the fish you want to catch are. That's the biggest and best tip I can give you to hire people.
And my thinking on this, because I'm in sales, I'm always in a sales mode. So whether I'm pitching the job or I'm pitching the service, I understand prospecting. And this is prospecting 101, and it's darn hard because you have to go and engage people and invest the time to go out and look for them. And this is why people suck at it, is because they're not willing to accept the fact that this is what you really have to do.
Well, because we're lazy.
Yeah.
As an industry, we're lazy. Years ago, I've used this as a prop how many times today?
But this is where we're at. This is the reality.
This was the Johnny Bench baseball card a few minutes ago, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but it's like, I would show a picture of a phone. It's in my presentations. An old style phone with the cord on it and the push button numbers and stuff. I said, look, you guys might not know this, but this is a 2-way communication device. If your sales methodology is sitting there in your office waiting for the phone to ring, you're doing it wrong, right? So it's the same thing with trying to hire people. Some of the people who are going to be the best employees you ever have already have a job.
Yeah,
so
that's the reality.
Now you have to go get them.
Yeah.
Right? Now you have to go get them. You have to go talk to them. That teller at the bank that is really great at customer service and remembers your name and stuff might be your next best employee. That waiter or waitress at the diner where you go to might be your next best employee.
Right.
That guy who at the car wash who does a great job and talks to you and finishes up with you, that could be your next best employee.
Right.
Rather than just throw an ad out there and God knows who's coming.
Yeah, because the ad is easy.
If they even show up.
Yeah,
right.
And that's the challenge. That's the main. I've had to automate that entire process, so I only have to deal with the 1%, and
Right.
I can ignore the 99 that isn't never going to make it. But still, it's a process. So you have to go out and invest the time. And everybody's like, but I don't have time. That's the biggest.
Think about this though. Here's the gold nugget.
Yeah.
That you have and everybody else who's listening has to our advantage that the general public doesn't know and that your prospects don't know. One is our industry is pretty much recession proof. as long as there's bugs, we will always have a job.
Yep.
And generally speaking, like for like, the compensation we can offer in our industry and the potential is greater than other industries and the jobs that these people that we're going to prospect are. Make sense?
Yeah.
They just, the difference is the people that you're trying to prospect to, they don't know it.
Right.
And the flip side of that is our industry, whether we have a chip on our shoulder or not, we kind of short sell ourselves. Whereas, you know what, this industry has a lot to offer.
It does. And this is why I'm so freaking excited all the time about it, because we think that a lot of the times we're also, the problem with the industry has, and especially with the small mom and pop individuals, which is probably 80% of our business, is we're always on defense.
Yeah, we don't have to be.
We're playing defense all the time instead of playing offense, and saying, you know, we have to go out and get this. We have to go out and get ours. And instead of being so self-protective, and that everybody's going to take something, the employee's going to quit, you know, they're going to take our business, they're going to take our customers. It's just this whole insecurity, and it's always about insecurity.
Yeah, well, you know what? But people have to stop thinking that way.
Yeah.
You know, years and years ago, I got invited by one of my customers when this is before I was married and stuff, and we went to Club Med. And this is many, many years ago. I guess Club Med still exists. We got on a plane in New York and went down to Cancun.
I remember the ads. I was old enough to remember the ads. It's kind of like sandals.
Yeah, except for single people. But, you know, and I remember you're sitting around drinking and talking to people and stuff like that. And people are going around asking each other, I'm a lawyer, I'm an accountant, I'm a doctor, I'm a nurse, blah, blah, blah. What do you do? I own a pest control and landscape company. Oh, okay. Well, what do you do in the winter? I said, wear heavy sweaters. You know, I don't work all winter. How come? Well, because I make enough money during the season. I don't need to work all winter. I have 3 months off if I want, except if it snows, because we did snow plowing too. But, you know, it's like people were shocked that I didn't have to work, because they had no idea that someone that does what we do could make good enough money to be able to be sitting there at the same table at the same restaurant with them, and I don't have to work, and they do when they get home.
Yeah.
Right? I could stay down here a month if I wanted to, you know? So it's like, okay, think about that and put that in your back pocket, and now how do I communicate that to people that I'm trying to recruit? Because that's their future as well.
Yeah.
If they want to pursue it, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hiring kids right now that 18 to 25 and 30 somethings for more money than anybody's ever going to pay them.
Yeah.
Because I know what the market is down here. I got a guy who I hired an interview, says they're paying him $10 an hour. The large companies are paying $10 an hour. I
was paying people $10 an hour in the 70s and 80s. Right?
Yeah, that's one of the things that a lot of people who remember that history understand. And I'm paying these guys to start to learn, like an apprenticeship, at $13 an hour. At, you know, if I find an 18-year-old that is sharp enough, I will pour myself into him, because I can have him making 16 to 18 an hour in 6 months if he's really that sharp. And we're talking about no selling, just doing tech work and dealing with the client. If you can deal with that client, because all of our clients are high-end clients. That's our business. We're not dealing with the low end.
Yeah, in my experience and observation has been people are scared of sales. When they hear sales, they freak out. And I'm like, you know what? First of all, you get business from being in business. You know, I mean, people see your trucks around, they see your phone number and whatever, and you know what? The phone rings because you've been in business and you're established, and you also get business because you're good. So all you have to do is be good at this, and people will hire you. It's as simple as that.
And the referrals, I mean, if the technician does a great job of communicating, he just does a great job. Like I tell people, tell them what you're going to do at the beginning. Tell them what the problem is. It's very simple. Explain to them the scope of the service. Explain to them what they're getting, because it's the same exact thing I told them on the phone. By the way, we sell everything on the phone. he goes out and does that, and then at the end explains to the customer what he did that he said he was going to do.
It's not that hard.
It's
right?
not.
It's fundamentals.
It's that, but that's what I teach, and I just see if you do that, and then you say, by the way, could you please get me a Google review? That's selling.
Yeah.
You just asked for this. You closed. You just you did what you said you were going to do, and then you simply just asked for something in return.
Yeah.
That's reciprocity. It's, hey, I did a great job. Do me a favor. Give me a Google review.
And you know what? The other thing is that if you're good enough, people are going to do the reviews anyway.
Yeah.
You don't even have to. In my view, you don't even have to ask for it. I've never asked for any of that kind of stuff. But I grew my business at a different time. My advertising spend was very, very low.
Yeah.
Compared to the revenue percentage that other people are using, like today, especially today, I hardly advertise at all because I adopted the premium service for premium price way back.
Yeah. Which is what we've done. Yeah.
When I first started, when I first started my business, that's how I did it.
Yeah. No, we're doing the same exact thing. I mean, our ad spend right now, when I look at, it's basically in-house software that we use to manage the ads, but we're about 3%, 3.5%.
Yeah.
But we're still growing at that 20 to 25, which is where I'm comfortable. So I'm shooting for that 20-20 revenue model where I'm growing at about 20% a year and see if I can hit 20% profit margin. To me, that's very comfortable growth because that gives me time to hire as soon as I start seeing a need, before there's an actual need, and plan for that need, and then hire slow enough that if I can afford to fire along the way until I get that B player. I'm looking for A and B players and just start getting away the C players very quickly. But that's a revenue model for me that I'm adapting. I don't know if you've seen that, or is that from your accounting background and what you're looking at a business model. That seems to work for me fine at my age because I don't no longer have the same tolerance for risk that I had when I was 25.
Well, the one of the things that we talk about at my business development workshops is making money on purpose and not by accident, right?
Right.
And the thing is, you have to develop your business plan. You have to know what your costs are. If you don't know, if you know what your costs are, then you're better prepared to set your pricing so that you hit your targets. And that's what we talk about. And that's one of the things that we have to teach, so that people are actually able to hit their targets.
Right.
And so one of the things, and I don't mean to make a negative comment about it or be derogatory, but it's great to have your percentage of growth targets as long as they're well thought out and based on good fundamental business principles. Because what happens in this industry, and I'm going to throw this out there and people will agree or disagree, is I see this as an observation in the industry that people who are growing their companies have been inadvertently influenced by the company they worked for before or the big companies around them.
Yeah.
And you'll see this in the conversations on the various Facebook pages, because I'm on lots of them. And I need to charge this much money for my inspection because company X, they're the big player. That's what they charge.
Right.
Well, your cost structure is going to be different than theirs, and the quality that you can deliver is probably going to be different than theirs. So why should your pricing be the same as theirs?
Right.
Right. If they're selling, Chevy Malibus, but you're delivering BMW quality work, why should your price be the same as them? Make sense?
Yeah.
Because that's the idea.
Yeah.
This industry is, we're not good at certain things, and pricing and marketing are one of them.
Yeah.
Okay. And even though that's a very broad brushstroke, actually I'm painting with a roller, right? When I say that, think about this. If you've been in the industry long enough, you have seen that high-tech stuff has been introduced to our industry, which can be sold at a premium price, and within a short 3 to 5 years, it's all being priced as a commodity and who's
It is.
cheaper, right?
Yeah.
That's what we do, because we haven't been maybe taught correctly, or our perspective is wrong. And we think that we are a product-based business. So it's like when the termite bait first came out, that's really high-tech stuff. And it was going at X dollars per foot per house. And before you know it, everybody's the same price at like maybe 20% of the original cost. We've driven the price to the ground, right? When the best termiticide came out, that was a high-priced product. Boom. Now everybody's using the same products at the cheapest prices. Right. And that's crazy.
Yeah.
So think about this, and this is how come I get on and off people's Christmas card lists all the time, because I just tell it like it is, right?
Right.
If you're a manufacturer and you make this, hey, here's new Uncle Paul's bug juice. It's the best thing for bed bugs, let's say. Those companies they'll subsidize or support your ad campaign if you're a big company, because you're using Uncle Paul's bed bug killer, right? Well, it's in their best interest that you feature their product. It's not in your best interest, because what you need to feature is your company, and that you do it right and you do high quality work. It doesn't matter which bug juice you use, right?
Yep.
Because you're the best at doing this.
Right.
So there's conflicts of interest going on in the marketplace that I think our industry is blind to sometimes.
Well, our industry, especially a guy that, this is the typical scenario. Guy becomes a pest control technician for a large brand, usually, or any company, and then he might become a technician for another, and he'll go to 2 or 3 companies, and then he'll decide by circumstance to become independent because he's fed up, usually. What the E-Myth calls the reluctant entrepreneur. He's having a almost having an entrepreneurial seizure. He's just, I'm fed up and I became a reluctant entrepreneur. But
for one reason or another, he decides he's going to be in business.
Yeah, and so that's how probably 90% of us end up here. I personally was looking for something else to do, and I ran across this. But there is no understanding of real sales. There's no understanding of marketing, and there's no understanding of brand. Chemical is a commodity. Every product pretty much out there is a commodity. So the only thing that really differentiates between you and your competitor is your brand. Except you have no knowledge of marketing. You don't want to do the things that requires you to do in marketing to get yourself out there, because you're more concerned about what is the people in my circle of pest control technicians going to think. I hear this all the time. I want to do that, Frank, but what is my competition going to think? I said, I don't care what your competition thinks. You're not in the business to please the industry. You're not in the business to please the competition. You're in the business to please the customer. And your customer is going to determine, and the market is going to determine what's better. And you have to demonstrate that, but you have to also market it. You have to build a brand. And they don't understand this whole concept of building brand. What differentiates me is, I get all the time, is, well, I understand your service is more expensive because the products you use are more expensive. And I stop them, my customer. And I say, no. The matter of fact is, we all have access to the same product. It's about process. The process we use. We're not going to go in there and just spray your baseboards. That's not what we do. This is what we do. And in my sales presentation, I explain in detail what my differentiating factors are between me and the rest of my 240 competitors that I have. And I said, here's a video on how we actually perform our service. I have a demo video that I send the client. And I said, good luck getting anybody else to spend this much time on the phone with you, explaining in detail what your problem is, because I've diagnosed it over the phone, and then giving you the solution of how we're going to solve it, and then telling you why. By that time, I've already built up value.
Yeah.
So now I'm $100 more expensive than every competitor I have. I'm 40 to 50% more expensive than the 240 competitors I have. I said, I can give you the phone number if you want. I got the entire list. Go call them. you're not going to get this. Because what I sell is biology-based pest control, understanding we're targeting that problem. Because our brand promise to you is that we are not unnecessarily going to contaminate that home with something that isn't necessary to do. If the baseboard spray is not necessary, we're not doing it. And I can tell you in one finger how many homes we've had to baseboard spray in the last year to solve a problem.
Right. So what you're doing is what we talked about earlier. What you're doing is entomologically sound, right?
Yeah. But we have to communicate that.
I know.
That's the thing.
Think about this. And this is what I talk to. It's not like I'm a life coach, but I talk to young kids all the time. You know, kids that are college age and high school age that are about to go to college and about their career and what they're going to do. Right? Think about back before you had your first job ever, how hard it was you thought to get a job. You know what you need to get a job today if you want a job? And this is how simple it boils down to. And I asked them this question. They say, what? I say, a pulse. Think about it. A pulse. You can't even get people to show up for an interview. All you have to do is show. So now think about it. Let's take that very fundamental basic that you need to have a pulse to be able to get a job today, because that's kind of sort of how it is.
Yeah.
And let's project that into us as an industry and running our business. To be a good entrepreneur and to have a good business today, what you need to do is A, show up, and B, be able to string words together to make sentences, kind of sort of know what you're doing, and be able to communicate with your customers. Now, you know, people will say, well, those are all the same thing. They're not. You know, I talk to homeowners all the time, as does everybody in our industry, and they are desperate to find somebody that they can call and that will actually answer their phone in a timely fashion and or call them back and then actually show up in a timely fashion.
Right.
So it's not hard to be in business.
Yeah.
You just have to stick with the fundamentals. They work. And you know what? If you continue to do that, you will prosper.
Yeah.
It's as simple as the math is not that hard.
Yeah, no, I've you know, my thing is I am really about a lot of the things I've done because I was super complicated, and I think as I'm getting older, I'm learning to be simple, and doing simple things, and you know, really just ABCs, do the basics, and do them well, and I think that's been our secret to my success is doing less, but doing better at what we do than anybody else around us. Not worrying about what everybody else is doing because I know they're not doing this. So I look at it and I say, okay, however, it's not, simple doesn't mean easy. Simple is actually much harder to do than, because you can go and say, okay, we do termites, we do lawns, we do home, inspections, and we're into 6 different things and you're one guy. And to me, I found that I can make more money by doing 2 things better than anybody else and getting rid of all the things that I was doing because I couldn't get 15 people to do it. Until I have a department that's specifically dedicated to that, I learned, let me focus on 2 to 3 things. The most successful brands in the world aren't really that great because their product is just so much better. They're great because it's simple. It's simplicity. But if you can take a great service, I mean, I look at the difference between Chick-fil-A and McDonald's. They sell sandwiches. It's not that hard to make a sandwich.
Yeah.
It's the people and the culture that you bring around you and the culture you create. At the end of the day, it's a chicken that's breaded between 2 pieces of bread, mayo, and a pickle. I mean, how hard it is to sell that and sell it at $6 or sell it 30% more than you're selling a burger for.
That's right. That was one of my clients years ago. And I was there when they decided they're going with the milkshakes. And oh my God, how much money they made on the milkshakes. Have you ever had a Chick-fil-A milkshake?
I have not yet because I'm on low carb. So I've given up all of that and I'm just suffering all the time because I had to go low carb to save my life.
Go have one of those milkshakes. I mean, they're so thick you can like spackle with them, but they're really, really good. They call them hand spun milkshakes.
Oh, wow.
And when they first came out, I mean, I forget how many years ago it was, but I mean, the small one was $3. They sold out.
Yeah.
They made more money on the milkshakes than anything else. It was
Wow.
crazy,
Yeah.
but they're really good. So when
Right.
you have something really good, people buy it. I mean,
Yeah.
think about it. You go to Starbucks selling a cup of coffee for $5. Who's going to pay $5 for a cup of coffee?
Right.
So, I mean, it is what it is. All right. So it's 10:45, and wow, look how fast the time goes.
Because you can talk forever, Paul. That's your problem.
No. But I want to. We talked about a lot of stuff, but I want to know: is there any questions? Because I want to answer people's questions if they have them, and if there's anything about pest control or whatever.
I'm going through the feed now.
Okay.
I think we've answered a lot of questions. Most guys are just thankful, and they're talking about how difficult it is to hire, and how they're looking at that. This thing is, we got 41 people comments right now. Let me take a look at the comments, see if we can answer anything for people, because I would like that. Let me see if I got comments. Where do all my comments go? Of course, I'm online now, and 23 comments. How come I can't see all my comments? But anyway, I think we've got a lot covered. Tell me a little bit more about what you're doing, and what the future holds for your training.
Okay.
There seems to be let me just give you some. There's a huge demand, especially in my group. When I do surveys in my group, and then I survey the rest of the industry, the people that follow me embrace what I do as a brand. This is why I got a very little niche following, but it's very powerful because they enjoy a lot of what I give away online and the online value. In other words, they live on this device. And them going to a conference in Indiana, chances are, isn't going to happen. Them going to Orlando is never going to happen. And so I know that you're doing training now. You're doing some of this. What's the future for your consulting business, and what are you looking at trying to do for the industry? Because I think there's a huge amount of value that you bring, but making it more accessible. And what are your thoughts on that, and what's going on there?
Okay, so right now I have 2 books I'd like to get finished this year. One of them is, and because there isn't a book like this.
Okay.
One of them will be the termite combat manual, and the combat manuals are for the industry.
Okay.
And so because there's not a book that gives you practical here's how to inspect, here's how to treat, here's how to patch the holes, here's how to do all this kind of stuff, here's how to possibly even price it and things like that. So I have to finish that. The other one that I'm working on is more for consumers, but I have the bedbug combat manual out there, but that's not for consumers, it's more for professionals. But the consumers who need bedbug information all in one place, like a pocket guide, it's going to be called the Bedbug Battle Guide, and that's for consumers. That book, I think that book has to be for less than $20 or $10 or something like that, so that the people who really need it can afford it. So those are projects I'm working on right now. The other thing that I'm working on is our first Zoom meeting, and then how do I take the PJB business development workshops, because like you said, a lot of people can't attend, and put them online on Zoom kind of thing, because I can reach more people, I can help more people, and it's easier. I can teach that right from sitting here in the dining room at my house or whatever. So that's the other thing that I'll be doing, is going to be a lot of online type stuff as well. But you know what? It doesn't. There's no substitute for going somewhere and meeting people and doing it live. I mean, I love doing that. I have a lot of fun doing it. I get asked to go everywhere. I'm lucky that way. But if there's a guy in North Dakota or something like that, chances are I'm not doing a meeting in North Dakota. Right. So we have to go. We have to embrace and go with the online type stuff. So that's what you'll see.
Yeah, Have you thought about
by the
doing
way,
YouTube? Are you on YouTube?
I have some videos on YouTube, but you know, it's kind of like, gosh, I am so busy. Like while we're doing this, I've gotten messages coming up. I can see emails coming up
Yeah.
that people need me to go do stuff, and it's like, you know, I'm like, look, I'm lucky. I don't have to work if I don't want to, and but I love doing what I do.
Right.
So I'm probably I'm gonna have to be seriously injured or incapacitated to physically be able to do the work before I actually stop.
Right.
I still play ice hockey. I play tennis. I play golf. You know, so I'll play ice hockey till my knees won't let me anymore. You
Right.
know? So that, you know, look, it's what I'm telling you is not shocking. It's predictable, right? The way of the future is online. The way of the future is on your laptop and having equipment. I mean, look, you have that nice microphone and the boom thing and all that stuff. How much did you invest in a camera and all that stuff to be able to do this stuff, right?
Yeah. Very little, actually.
Really?
Yeah, actually, I got this entire setup done with audio recorder, mixer, microphone, camera, under $500.
Yeah. So I have a camera already. I have the mic that goes on lapel that's hardwired into the camera, and I have backdrops and stuff. I just haven't pulled the trigger on it because I'm so busy. What happens to me is I have to go work in the field.
Yeah.
And that stops me from doing all those things that you just asked me. What's the future? But
I'm gonna challenge you on that. I'm gonna challenge you, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I have right now. We have on where I get most of my business. Okay, is YouTube, because I deal so much with plants, not so much with roaches. Here's what I do. I tape everything that I do in the field on this phone. Tape, and I'm dating myself now. Okay, because
wait. You know what my phone suffers from? Out of storage space, because I do the same thing you do. I'm videoing and taking pictures, and then I don't take them off of here, and now it's full, and I'm like, oh my god, I have to get this on video. So
I
now
dump
I'm in
them.
my phone, and I'm deleting crap so I can put something new on there.
Yeah, so what I do is I videotape everything and then I dump it, and then basically I'll go in on a weekend and I'll start producing 20, 30, 40, 50 videos. And then I should start uploading every day. So I take every little 5-second, 30-second. Here's what I found, guys. And what I find is that all those videos get 50 views. I got some videos that go viral and have 150,000, 200,000 views. But for the most part, they're 50, 100 views, 200 views. What happens that little 30-second bit that I gave them on how to drain that mosquito thing brings loyal followers. And what it does is that trickle effect where we're trickling in. So we're hitting 3,000 subscribers now for pest control. It's amazing to have 3,000 subscribers on anything for pest control. But we're engaging that end user. We're not engaging the industry there. And then so what I do is every time I just post, and I post it. You can post from your phone right now, unedited. You don't even have to worry about the quality. You just are on a site and you get on your phone and you just go, oh, this is a good video on termite. I'm going to post it on YouTube from my phone. And
so you have your own YouTube channel?
Yeah, I've got 5 YouTube channels, but that we do other things. But I got the Pest Geek podcast, which is for the industry, and then I have our Nature Pest channel, which is for our consumers, and we engage the consumer in content there in a little different way, where it's not as technical. So it's basically real simple 1, 2, 3 things. So if you dump the water, you don't have mosquitoes. If you leave it there, even if you flip it over, you still have mosquitoes. So those are the things. And then a lot of plant stuff. So I'll show them, here's how you identify the pest on this plant. This is the actual pest you have. This is not the pest. And by doing that, I say, oh, I understand now what I have. So that's all I do is just post videos and videos. Some of these are 30 seconds. Some of these are 2 minutes. Some of these are 20-minute actual demonstrations how I actually perform the service. We're the only company on the planet right now that's actually showing you how you actually perform the service in every situation from start to finish. Complete free demos. So those videos will go viral. Those things have 200,000 views on But the comments that I get from people is, oh my God, you don't understand what this means. I've had 3 companies and nobody solved the roach problem, and I was able to solve it myself. That's where it hurts. So to me, it's more of, but I understand that I've been on radio and television and production and computers and software pretty much my entire life. So to me, this is almost second nature. It isn't like, oh, I got to think about, like right now I'm thinking, how can I create content for TikTok? Because my 18 to 25-year-olds are there and I want to influence them. So to me, it's more about the influence and how I can, I understand that my 25 to 35-year-olds are not going to read the books.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, you might want to write this down because you're doing a lot of green stuff. I'm talking about plants and stuff. There's a book out there called Insects and Diseases That Attack Trees and Shrubs. It's out of print. It's by Cornell.
I love those guys.
Okay, that's one of the best books you can ever get and ever hold in your
disease,
hand.
Insects and Diseases That
Attack Trees and Shrubs, I think it's called. Google search that and see if you can find a used copy. You'll be lucky to get one. I know some people have told me they found them for under $50.
Yeah.
It's about yay big.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's okay. I can eat through that. I'll find it. I have it. I have the search here in my Google. One of the things that I've done, Paul, is very simple in my methodology of what I do here on the podcast and what I'm doing is I take all that entomological stuff and I digest it and then I just regurgitate it.
That's the point. Yeah.
And it's that, but I got to make it accessible to the guy who's never going to go into Google Scholar and read that 200-page article that I'll sit reading on my toilet because I enjoy it. So I just got to learn to be.
If you're ever talking to me, I don't have a toilet here, but I am in the Oval Office sometimes.
Yeah. So there you go. So that's what I do is I just take this stuff that I realize I understand who my audience is and I understand who I'm trying to influence, and they're not going to be reading an article. Like I'll send it to some guys and I'll say, guys, read this, and it goes, my God, Frank, that's 200 pages. I got to do 15 stops today. 20 stops. I'm not going to read this. I said, here's paragraph 3, pretty much summarizes it for you, or I'll just do a podcast on it because I realize there's such a big need. I'll just sit there and do a podcast. So my idea is that there really is nothing new under the sun. I'm just making it new to you.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
a good point. They really, look, think about this. And I wrote an article about mystery bites. You have people who are getting bit and they think it's bed bugs or whatever, or some mystery bug that no one's ever heard of before. No one can see it. The truth of the matter is with mystery bites, we already know who the usual characters are. We already know what the ectoparasites are. Essentially, every ectoparasite that will bite a person, we can see with the unaided eye, provided you have average vision.
Right.
The tiniest bug that's going to be biting somebody, that's the most difficult to see, is going to be a rodent or a bird mite. They're tiny. They're like the size of a head of a pin, and unless they're moving, they blend right in sometimes. But we go to people's houses, and we can't find anything, and they're saying they're being bit. A lot of times they're not, and that's why I wrote that article. And there's you look at my bedbug practical has grown up pretty quick. We have I think we're going on up to 1,300 people now. There's over 1,200 right now. But you have the war against bedbugs is inspired me to start my own page, and they have 8,000 plus people on there. And I'm an admin over there. That was started by a guy named Phil Grillo up in Queens, New York. He's in the pest control business, and I help people on that one too. So, but oh my God, the people who contact me privately because of bed bugs, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And their stories all. I mean, if you're paying attention and you care about people, they're very sad.
Yes.
So I try to help as many of those people as I can.
Yeah, no. So what I've done is I also I'm to the point that I'm gonna learn to respond to questions with video links. So here is an actual video I did on this. Watch it, and that's how I'm literally responding. I've got 139 videos on Nature Pest, and I think I got 150 on here on Pest Geek Podcast. And I basically just here's a video, because people are visual audio learners, and that's just the age.
Well,
that
it's
we're
so
in.
easy.
Yeah.
You know, it's so easy. You know,
Versus telling you to, some people I'll send, like I got clients who have an issue with, no, I got silverfish in my pest control company. I needed to do this and this and this and this. And I said, look, here's the reality. They're not going to solve that problem doing it that way.
Yeah.
Here's the University of Florida article on silverfish. It's one page. It tells you everything you need to know. It's not going to happen. This is what we need to know. So it's, we're in the information age. The problem is there's so much. Here's the beef I always have, and this is where I have a beef with the industry. So many people say there's so much bad information out there. People are putting out garbage. But the guys that have the really good knowledge aren't putting it out there the same way that guy's putting out garbage. Yeah. You can't win the war playing with on a different field. If the guy is putting out misinformation, the only way you can combat the misinformation in the marketing space, because I look at it as marketing, is I got to go out and I got to outdo him on the negative crap.
Well, and that's a good point. That's one of the reasons I started that page, is because I didn't want to have to argue with the people that said, "Oh, you just have to put lavender oil."
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, look, you know what? Any of that kind of stuff, I delete that kind of stuff right away. There's not the right at the top of the page. It says accurate and credible information. All right. Now I'll let somebody have some misinformation on there for a short period of time so people can talk about why not to do that.
Right.
But most of the time we're going to delete that right away.
Yeah. And that's where, so I've gotten more criticism, like you're giving away all these videos for free and you're giving all this knowledge for free and you're not charging for it. If I start charging for it, nobody would buy it because nobody knows what the heck I'm talking about.
You're right.
In other words,
but like you said, it's like the snowball. People are looking at that, and now you become a credible resource, so that when they need service in your area, they're going to call you.
Yeah, and that's what we're banking on. And then what they're going to do is call somebody local. So we're getting calls now. By the way, do you have somebody in California that can do what you do? Because I've talked to 5 pest control companies, nobody's doing it.
Yeah.
And I saw your video on it, and nobody's doing it. I'm not going to do it myself. So again, we're going to be able to help those, Paul, that in this industry that are like-minded. You know, if you read the book Tribes by Seth Godin, you don't need a really big audience. You need a very small audience that just basically, if I can get 1,000 guys across the country that understand what you and I are talking about and embrace it, they'll get all that business in that area. Yeah, all we need is 1,000 guys out of the 174,000. I don't have to think so big. I understand the power of numbers. And I said, all I need is 1,000 guys across the country that'll embrace this and say, yeah, I embrace IPM. Yeah, I embrace this methodology. I understand it. We can change things for those people. We can't change it for everyone.
And by the way, that's one of the reasons that I have pros on my pages, because don't go on there and say, oh, you're better off hiring a pro every time. The reason that you're on there is to help be me on there, to provide people with good answers and good information, so that when people get on there and start reading up about bedbugs and they see your posts, and let's say you're in Cincinnati, and this is a person who has bedbugs in Cincinnati, and they say, hey, that guy from Cincinnati, I'm going to call him because he's a pro, because they can afford to call you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and that's the reality. Yeah.
Yeah, and so what happens is, I think I've seen where people read what the purpose of the page is and they get it. Yeah. And I like that, because now I'm teaching other pros to be generous with their knowledge.
Yeah, and that's what we try to do with Pest Pro Local, and we're trying to do that.
But it's for the common good of the community, and that will come back to them.
It will. It always the good always comes back. I'm a firm believer that you're gonna get back in life what you put out, and I get it. I can deal with the haters, and I can deal. To me, I got a really thick skin. It doesn't really bother me, because I understand the end game of where I'm going and what I'm building for the next 10 to 15 years, God willing. So to me, it's encouraging to see what is happening with you, with me, with a lot of the other guys in this industry who have so much, like Alan, who is just a freaking soldier for this industry, and he takes a lot of heat for a lot of the stuff he does. So I get it that we don't have to. We can do a lot of influence. Like if I told people, look, the reality is, if you listen to me for American roaches in your home, you would actually never need me.
Yeah.
Because 90% of this stuff has to do with sealing. It has nothing to do with chemical.
Yeah.
If you saw a German roach problem in a home once and you listen to me, you will really never have German roaches again because they're not outside.
Well, and listen, the job security is the fact that a lot of people, you can tell them all the things to do and they won't do it and they're going to need you. It's as simple as that.
My customer is the top 10% of the money makers who are never going to go out and buy a syringe of gel bait and apply it themselves.
No.
Plain and simple.
They're going to hire you to do it. But, the thing about it is I could probably form a big club if we had the Paul Bello Hater Club.
We should.
The industry, I'm not going to name entities and stuff, but
yeah.
Oh my God, they want to draw that line of, okay, if you don't support the industry 100%, then you're not on our side. And that's
exactly.
That's not what this is about.
Yeah.
Because because you've been paying attention. My message is do this work correctly and stand behind your work.
Yeah.
And we should have zero time for the people who are unwilling to do the work correctly and do it over and over again, and are always the ones in trouble.
Yeah, and usually we know the large numbers that are playing that game, and so. But yeah, to me, it's more about getting. I think there's always room for everything, and there's room for the guy who wants to sell the 15-cent burger, and there's the guy who wants to sell the $12 burger, and there's room for that quality, but you have to differentiate yourself. And this is where if I could help the industry in any way in the next 10 years, is to understand how to brand differentiate yourself and really go out there and make a distinction between you and your competitors, not bashing your competitor because they're somehow inferior because they sell a cheap burger. Because understand that the market wants a cheap burger and they're going to buy a cheap burger.
Well, think about this. Go shop for a Beamer, a Mercedes, or a Lamborghini. Those car guys at those dealerships are not talking about the Chevy Camaro.
They're not.
They're not. They don't even recognize them as competitors, right?
Right.
They're not going to give them any attention. They're not going to pay. They're not going to spend any time on thinking about the other vehicles because they are who they are and they have a well-established name brand. Now, how do we relate that to our industry? First of all, our industry, we need to be careful about how we even think about it, what our perspective is, because just because you're a licensed applicator and you've got your name and logo on your truck and you're driving down the road does not make you my colleague. You have to earn that by doing the work as well as what you're talking about doing, as well as what I know needs to be done, right? You don't get a pass just for being here.
Right.
You have to earn it. And that's the thing. That's why I'm not interested in the guys who are coming because they need CEU credits.
Right.
I'm interested in the guys who are coming because they have a thirst for knowledge and they know that the knowledge is
and that's where I've been banging that drum that it's always about the CEU and it's like $15 CEU. Who cares about a 15? I can get that on. I do it. Here's what I do, Paul. I got a guy locally that sells CEUs online. And because I have to get a third party, I can't do my own CEUs. I just turn it on a Saturday and get 8 hours that I need. It's running and I'm cleaning the house and I'm doing cooking and I'm taking care of the kids and I'm doing what I do on a Saturday. And when that class is gone, I go at the end and I'll just click all the answers and I get my CEU. Yeah. And I complied. I didn't learn a darn thing. It's boring as watching paint dry and water boil, but I complied. That's the majority of the mentality with the CEU market. And I want to sell training that actually helps you grow as an individual. Forget about the CEU. Go get that somewhere else. I don't even really care about competing in that arena.
That's why. Okay, that's you just hit the nail on the head for why you haven't seen me do those CEU things.
Right.
Because it's to you and I, it's boring, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've got to. You have to have this many minutes of content. Then you have to answer these questions, all that kind of stuff. You know what? It's maybe one day you'll see that I do it, but if I do it, it's going to be really good and it's not going to be boring.
But here's what I would like to see, because here's what I would pay for in a heartbeat. I just finished paying $250 for 160, and the equivalent of Expo in the podcasting world, and I just paid full admission so I could get it online because I couldn't go. For your PBJ seminar, if you recorded the darn thing,
that's what's coming.
I would just pay for full price. I would rather sit in my audience and get the knowledge because I at some point I need to have that interaction with people, but I understand where I need the knowledge that's practical that I can implement now, the tactical part and the strategy part versus the networking part.
Right.
And I can differentiate the two.
Right. So that's part of the future. That's, if I didn't say that's part of our future, what I'm doing next, that's what we're going to be doing.
I love it.
The other thing about the business workshops is I like the spring one. I do wherever I want to do it. So and the way we do it is because we cover so much ground. It's Saturday and Sunday morning. So people arrive Friday afternoon, and we go out to dinner and have adult beverages and tell lies. Saturday morning, 8 o'clock, we're in the classroom, right? Yep. We go from 8 a.m. to 12:30. We have lunch together, and then we go out and we party again. Sunday, the same thing. So it's only 9 hours of learning, but we're going to a nice place where everybody wants to go.
Right.
And we have the majority of the time is spent having a good time with each other and interacting, but we are learning heavy stuff pretty fast. And that's so it's like, okay. And by the way, people don't know this, but I'll tell everybody. I am offering, and anybody can come, a free PJB business development workshop. And the only problem with attending it is it's on the Disney Alaska cruise next June out of Vancouver on the Disney Wonder. We were doing it this year in June, but because of COVID, the cruise got canceled. So we rebooked for next June. So I don't know if there's any space left on the ship or not. I don't know how many people, because the ship got canceled and rebooked through Disney, but it leaves out of, it's June, the first week of June. I think it leaves June 7th, 8th, or 9th out of Vancouver, British Columbia. And if you go on that cruise with us, you're going to a free PJB business development workshop. So now it's a business trip. There you go.
I got it.
You can't beat that with a table leg, right?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, cool deal, man. No, I love that. I wish I was going to go to your last one in Orlando when you were in Orlando, and I was already ready to sign up, and it's just always something happens that is catastrophic that I can't make it.
Well,
and
if you think about it, that was the weekend that Disney closed. We were there. Mary Ann and I got down there. We got down there on Thursday so that on Friday we could go on the Star Wars ride, which we were able to do. And also we went on the Avatar ride, which, oh my God, the thing's awesome. And then we had our workshop on, that was on Friday. Saturday and Sunday we had our workshop. We had a good time with we had like 50 people there. It was great. And then sadly Disney had to close because of COVID. They closed that Monday, but we all had a good time. Marty Jones, Marty, I don't know if you're listening today, and Cindy, I hope you guys are feeling better. But Marty was able to pass his ACE exam there. That was great. So I'm looking at where are the locations that people really want to go, and provide that opportunity for folks to get away from it all, and also learn something. And if that's a vehicle there's lots of places. People, some people want to go to Yellowstone, some people want to go to the beach and stuff. I can't go to everywhere, but we'll figure it out.
A lot of my people want to go online.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. That's what we're going to be doing. And the fellows that are working with me on that are more tech savvy than I am are going to help me to get that done, and we'll be doing that this year too. Okay.
Right. Yep. So I appreciate it. I want to ask one last thing of you.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Since you are tight with Austin.
Yes.
If you can convince him to come on my podcast, that would be the highlight of my life. I can die happy.
I think it can be done.
Okay.
Now, how far are you from Boca Raton?
An hour and a half.
Okay, so I know who I'm dealing with. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm sure he wouldn't mind doing it. The problem is the tech. Okay?
Okay.
You might have to go there and broadcast.
I'll go there. I'll go there. I'll camp out in his front yard for a week if I have to.
I'll see what I could do. How's that?
I appreciate it.
Okay, no worries. Hey, thanks to everybody for whoever's listened. And if there's any questions, I'll always be happy to help you.
Yeah, it's going to go live, and we're going to have it up today. So and come back again as soon as you want to.
Okay, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Paul. Have a great one, brother.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.